depending on how you measure it,
Hmm.
people might have a little bit of both. When they're doing things, at one moment they're turning their eyes too much. At other times, the brain's going, "I've had enough," and that lets go of convergence. So it's really about that imbalance between focusing and eye teaming. So between the accommodation convergence system are out of balance, and what you're seeing is the person trying to cope. So if I push harder, I might turn the eyes in a bit more. It becomes a convergence excess. If my eyes are kind of giving up and letting go, it might look more like an insufficiency.
Mm. Okay.
The critical part is you've got symptoms and things are out of balance, and that's what we need to deal with.
Mm. And how about the other aspect, the focusing? So is it like, are there some situations where people's focusing system might be too weak or too slow to react, or perhaps even, just gives up, like you've
Yeah, look,
mentioned?
and I think there's lots of different labels and names out there. I think
Mm,
there's possibly two categories
mm,
where you have, and they're relative, but you have a convergence insufficiency often goes hand in hand with an accommodation excess. So what that means is
mhm,
I'm focusing too much compared to how much I'm converging. So convergence is insufficient compared to accommodation. So I'm focusing here, but I'm
mm,
converging out there. And
mm,
then the other one is a convergence excess and accommodation insufficiency, where I'm tending to converge too close, but focusing is not keeping up. And so it's that stepping back and seeing that these things often will paired problems rather than occurring in isolation. And if someone's got a very fatigued system, sometimes it can
mm.
kind of look like both because both systems have just fatigued and let go.
Right.
And so that's part of our job to kind of sift our way through and work out what's been happening there.
And what kind of environmental factors can aggravate this condition? Are we talking about things like lighting, just stress in general? Like what other factors could aggravate things?
Yeah, and if we take a leaf from ergonomics in general, so if you're in good health, good nutrition, working under good lighting, that all helps because our visual system, you know, we obviously need light. The better the quality of the light, the better the contrast, the less the brain has to work to figure out what it's looking at. So that is a level of fatigue and attention in the background because vision and attention are kind of so tied together that anything that takes up your attention is potentially going to impact on how well you use your vision and vice versa. Okay, so and if we talk about general stress feeding into all these little stressful things, I've got deadlines, I'm tired, my eyes aren't working well, and they're all chewing up concentration. So you've got all of those sorts of things, and there's an interesting thing to look at where you kind of go, okay, well, kids playing on the iPad for 4 hours straight and not bothered by it, but can't read for 15 minutes without being tired. Well, they're both near tasks, and it's very easy to say, oh, well,
Mm,
they're just the same thing. They're not. They're a
mm,
different level of engagement as a start.
mm,
And they're a different activity. iPads and things and computers tend to be a bit more passive. You are self-directed. You kind of you know, you're doing your own thing on it. But if you have to do required reading for studying, that's a much bigger
mm,
cognitive load.
mm,
And if you're still learning how to decode and decipher what these squiggles on the page mean, that's an entirely different task to looking at a cartoon or a picture or playing a game on an iPad. And so
yeah.
the type of task that you're doing can make an impact. And I like to use the analogy that, if you've got a certain level of energy available and you go out to dinner with your best mates, you don't realize how late it gets sometimes. Yet you
Mm.
go to another function that's not your cup of tea and you're yawning and
Yeah.
bored, many hours before that, yet you
Yeah.
walked in with the same level of energy. Well, your appraisal and whether you enjoy the task and whether you're getting something out of it makes a difference. And which is where some kids might read for hours
Mm,
and put up with sore eyes or not even get sore eyes, and others might
mm,
get sore eyes straight away because they just get a different
yeah.
it's they get a different thing out of that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I think we forget sometimes that, like, we're not born to read. It's not something that a skill that you have from the moment that you come into the world. It's something that, it's a kind of an unnatural behavior in a way that we've learned to get information by looking at squiggles on a page. So that is something that requires, an additional load of concentration on the human brain.
Yeah, and it's a pretty recent thing in human history overall. So, it's only really in terms of mainstream in the last couple of 100 years,
Mm,
and probably
mm.
even less when we think about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because like education wasn't that widespread beforehand.